conflict.
Good evening. It's Friday, March 4th. Market Headlines is ready to provide you information from business and economic. And with me, Fajar Wayong, you're watching Market Headlines. The Indonesian government has succeeded in evacuating and repatriating Indonesian citizens in Ukraine. In a press conference, Foreign Minister stated that it was not easy for Indonesian citizens to save themselves and move out from Ukraine, especially in the city of Kharkiv.
The Indonesian government has succeeded in evacuating and repatriating Indonesian citizens in Ukraine. Using a Garuda Indonesia plane, the Indonesian citizens arrived at Soekarno-Hatta International Airport, Tangerang.
Pesawat Garuda Indonesia yang membawa pulang warga negara Indonesia dari Ukraina telah mendarat di tanah air. 80 warga negara Indonesia dan 3 warga negara asing yang merupakan keluarga dari WNI berada di dalam rombongan. Terdapat 14 evakue yang masih harus tinggal di Bukares untuk sementara waktu dan belum dapat ikut dalam rombongan kepulangan ini. Bahwa hari ini terdapat 4 warga negara Indonesia di Kharkiv sudah dapat keluar dari Kharkiv dan tiba di Lviv dengan selamat. Sebagaimana teman-teman ketahui, Kharkiv merupakan kota terbesar kedua di Ukraina dan pertempuran masih terus berlangsung di kota tersebut.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs Retno Marsudi stated that it was not easy for Indonesian citizens to save themselves and move from the city of Kharkiv. She said that Indonesian citizens had to go through a number of things to get out of the city. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, the Foreign Minister said that 99 Indonesian citizens had been successfully evacuated from Ukraine. IDX Channel reports.
Researchers of the University of Indonesia Center for Political Studies asked Indonesian politicians and residents must stop discourses to delay the 2024 general election. The researchers say that consistent adherence to the constitution and principles of democracy would free Indonesia from political chaos.
Researcher of the University of Indonesia Center for Political Studies, Delia Wildianti, stated that Indonesian politicians and residents must stop discourses to delay the 2024 general election by returning to the constitution and principles of democracy. The researcher noted that consistent adherence to the constitution and principles of democracy would free Indonesia from political chaos.
Kemudian sekarang tiba-tiba gitu ya ada usulan, ada wacana untuk menunda pemilu. Yang menurut saya ini adalah bentuk inkonsistensi dari pemerintah ataupun partai-partai politik gitu ya yang mengusung wacana penundaan pemilu. Seperti itu, kita harus kembali pada konstitusi gitu ya. Ketika konstitusi sudah mengatur aturan mainnya, prinsip demokrasi juga harus ada pemilu yang reguler dan periodik, ya seharusnya dan semestinya kita kembali ke sana.
The COVID-19 pandemic and focus on post-pandemic economic recovery voiced by some proponents are not sufficient to justify the election delay, Wildianti remarked, adding that they instead expose inconsistencies within the government and political parties, as the government has insisted on organizing the last regional elections in 2020 amid the pandemic. She noted that the government must be confident of being capable of properly organizing general elections in 2024, even as the pandemic is yet to end during the election year. IDX Channel reports.
At the 9th Annual World Ocean Summit International Forum, Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries affirmed that policy transformation in the Indonesian fishery sector would start soon this year, especially related to measurable fishing policies.
Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries Sakti Wahyu Trenggono affirmed that policy transformations in the Indonesian fishery sector will take off or start soon this year, especially related to measurable fishing policies.
First and foremost, we want to ensure that our fisheries resources will be more sustainable. Our fisheries GDP and exports number will increase. To meet this local global demand, we will boost our aquaculture production and economic restructuration and fishermen and fish farmers, continued by accelerating growth as a second phase, focusing on the blue economy. As mentioned earlier, quota-based fisheries will be our main tool to sustain the marine environment and offer economic growth at the same time. This approach starts in this year, 2022.
Minister Trenggono stated that his ministry had introduced a measured fishing policy, which is part of the transformation of Indonesia's fisheries sector. Trenggono stated that the implementations of measurable fishing policies is one of the three main phases in the transformations of fisheries governance in Indonesia. In that pace, a quota-based fishing policy should be followed by efforts to restructure the fishermen's economy. The next phase is accelerating growth that focuses on the blue economy as well as strengthening that growth. Through these phases, the government has set a target to become a sustainable marine economy-based country that is recognized by the world. IDX Channel reports.
And we're moving on to global update. President Biden bans Russian oligarchs from travel to the United States. Meanwhile, IKEA has temporarily closed all stores and factories across Russia in a move affecting 15,000 workers. And more stories on today's International Minute.
The International Criminal Court prosecutor has said he will immediately proceed with an investigation into alleged war crimes in Ukraine dating back to 2013. When protests erupted against a Russia-friendly government in Kyiv. Karim Khan said late on Wednesday that the probe was starting after 39 countries that are parties to the Rome Statute that established the court, including Canada and France, petitioned the ICC to begin an investigation. The announcement comes a week after Russia launched an all-out attack on Ukraine, drawing condemnation and sanctions from major world powers. U.S. President Biden announced new sanctions Thursday on more than a dozen Russian oligarchs and their families as pressure continued to build on Capitol Hill for an even tougher response to Moscow, a week after it invaded Ukraine, particularly banning imports of Russian oil and gas. The U.S. restrictions will prohibit those sanctioned from traveling to the United States by targeting the elite's family members. The administration is aiming to prevent them from easily transferring assets to spouses or children, a loophole often used in similar situations to evade sanctions. Top Japanese car makers have halted exports to Russia, and Japanese airlines suspended flights to Europe as more firms in the Asian country abandoned operations in response to the war in Ukraine. Toyota, the world's top-selling car maker, said on Thursday it would halt exports to Russia and production in the country as Western-led sanctions against Moscow scrambled logistics and severed supply chains. The move comes after local rivals Honda and Mazda announced a halt of exports to Russia, citing similar difficulties in procuring parts and logistical hurdles. IKEA has temporarily closed all stores and factories across Russia in a move affecting 15,000 workers, becoming the latest in a swath of Western firms to halt operations in the country since it invaded Ukraine. The Swedish flat-pack furniture company has mothballed its 17 outlets across Russia, but said it would keep its mega shopping centers open to allow access to essential retailers such as food shops and pharmacies. The news prompted a rush of shoppers at the stores due to close. Production at 3 manufacturing sites in Russia will also be paused, and all imports and exports in and out of the country and its ally Belarus will be halted. IDX Channel reports.
Indonesia's economy to experience contraction due to Russia-Ukraine conflict. Stay tuned on Market Headlines. We'll be right back.
Jika Anda adalah investor saham, Anda mendapat keuntungan di antaranya capital gain, yaitu keuntungan dari selisih harga beli dan harga jual saham. Dividend, yaitu pembagian laba kepada pemegang saham. Keuntungan lainnya, investor bisa memperoleh pendapatan tambahan dengan meminjamkan sahamnya melalui layanan pinjam meminjam efek atau PME. Apa itu PME? PME merupakan pinjaman efek sementara berupa saham dari investor untuk keperluan penyelesaian transaksi bursa. Apa saja manfaat yang didapatkan? Investor memperoleh keuntungan. Investor tetap dapat menerima dana sebagai pengganti dividen jika ada pembagian dividen saat sahamnya sedang dipinjamkan. Pendapatan yang diterima investor dari layanan PME dapat digunakan untuk membayar biaya penyimpanan saham. Saat nilai saham turun, investor tetap dapat memperoleh pendapatan hingga mengurangi potensi kerugian. Dan yang terpenting, KPEI menjamin pengembalian saham yang dipinjamkan sesuai waktu yang telah ditentukan. Menarik bukan? Prosesnya sangat sederhana. Investor cukup menghubungi perusahaan sekuritas dan menandatangani formulir perjanjian PME. Selanjutnya, jika terdapat kebutuhan penyelesaian transaksi bursa oleh peminjam, saham yang akan dipinjamkan diserahkan kepada KPEI melalui perusahaan sekuritas. Setelah proses PME selesai, maka KPEI akan mengembalikan saham yang telah dipinjamkan dan memberikan pendapatan kepada investor melalui perusahaan sekuritas. Segera hubungi perusahaan sekuritas Anda, Customer Care KPEI, atau kunjungi website kami untuk mengetahui layanan PME. PME, pinjamkan sahamnya, dapatkan manfaatnya.
Welcome back on Market Headlines. The Institute for Development of Economics and Finance, or INDEF, has projected that the Indonesian economy will contract 0.014% this year due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Chief of INDEF's Macroeconomic and Financial Center, Rizal Taufikur Rahman, stated that the volatile price inflation has begun to move, particularly for such commodities as oil, gas, and meat. The imminent price rise for foodstuffs during the fasting month of Ramadan is expected to add to the volatile price inflation. He predicted that global crude prices will increase 1.14% due to uncertainty over the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Accordingly, the prices of other commodities will follow suit in view of the vital role of oil in all economic sectors. He expressed the hope that the government will soon anticipate a possible rise in the prices of various commodities over the short run. He said the drop in Indonesia's economic growth due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict will not be significant compared to that of China and the US, which are expected to experience an economic contraction of 0.022% and 0.023% respectively. Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs Erlangga Hartarto appreciated European countries for remaining committed to strengthening cooperation amidst ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Moreover, the minister invites European investors to invest in Indonesia, especially in green energy.
Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs Erlangga Hartarto appreciated European countries for remaining committed to strengthening cooperation in the midst of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This was stated by Erlangga in the opening speech of the first Indonesia-Europe Business Forum, enhancing partnerships for stronger economic recovery. Erlangga admitted that European countries have become important partners for Indonesia. He hopes that Indonesia and Europe can improve economic relations bilaterally, regionally, and multilaterally.
Have been always be our main economic partners, and we appreciate on its commitment, strength, innovation, ingenuity, and when the situation are tough, such as today with a flashpoint geopolitics in Ukraine at the moment, Europe still be commitment to become the Indonesia partners. Indonesia economic credential offer lots of business opportunities for European companies, and I therefore invite the participation of European business to invest in Indonesia.
The Indonesian government invites European investors to invest in Indonesia, especially in the green energy sector, where currently Erlangga said Indonesia is trying to make an energy transition from using fossil energy to new renewable energy. IDX Channel reports.
Ministry of Finance stated that infrastructure development is the key to boosting economic growth in the long term. The government ensures to build the infrastructures that encourage productivity, connectivity, accessibility, and sustainability.
Deputy Minister of Finance Suhasil Nazara stated that infrastructure development is the key to boosting economic growth in the long term, since it has a high multiplier effect. To this end, the Deputy Minister also stated that the government will build infrastructures that encourage mobility, productivity, connectivity, accessibility, and sustainability for the subsequent generations.
Kita tidak boleh hanya sekedar menangani masa jangka pendek kita. Kita tetap berpikir mengenai bahwa kita harus membangun kesiapan pembangunan jangka panjang, dan salah satunya
Senin sampai Jumat pukul 11.30 hanya di IDX Channel.
Presidente della Repubblica di Indonesia.
Presidensi G20 di Indonesia akan mendorong upaya bersama untuk pemulihan ekonomi dunia dengan tema Recover Together, Recover Stronger. Kami akan menjamu Yang Mulia dan Bapak Ibu di hamparan pantai Bali yang indah, yang menginspirasi gagasan-gagasan inovatif untuk produktivitas G20 ke depan. Sampai bertemu di Indonesia, terima kasih.
Datu membawakan program berita News Screen yang menghadirkan informasi seputar ekonomi maupun juga bisnis dari dalam negeri.
Sektor UMKM hanya akan dikenakan pajak final 0,5%.
Awali hari Anda dengan informasi dunia ekonomi yang diulas dari berbagai sudut pandang. Power Breakfast, Senin sampai Jumat, jam 8.30, hanya di IDX Channel.
Market headlines. At the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement, earlier today, JCI was open at the level of 6,921.31. And then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index was on the level of 6,905.44. And then the index was showing strengthening trend by the second session closing time. The index was closed at the level of 6,928.32. And in short, Jakarta Composite Index went up 0.87%. And next we're going to see the sectoral movement. We got energy as the leader of strengthening trend that went up 6.88%. Industry went up 2.49%. Transportation and logistics went down 1.31% and non-cyclic went down 1.03%. And moving on to the top gainers of today's trading session. Bank Rakyat Indonesia went up 2.41% to the level of 4,670 rupiah per share. Adaro Energy went up 16.48% to the level of 3,040 rupiah per share. Merdeka Copper Gold went up 8.72% to the level of 4,240 rupiah per share, and Aneka Tambang went up 6.99% to the level of 2,450 rupiah per share. And meantime, the top losers. Bank Sentral Asia went down 0.94% to the level of 7,900 rupiah per share. BRMS went down 5.32% to the level of 178 rupiah per share. ICBP went down 1.26% to the level of 7,825 rupiah, and BBYB went down 4.55%. And let's see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Open at the level of 14,343 rupiah, showing weakening trend towards US dollar. And it was closed at the level of 14,415, and in summary, rupiah went down 0.26%. Bank Rakyat Indonesia allocated 85% of its 2021 consolidated net profit as cash dividends. Thus, the total cash dividends to be given reached 26.4 trillion rupiah.
Bank Rakyat Indonesia allocated 85% of its 2021 consolidated net profit of 31.6 trillion rupiah as cash dividends. Thus, the total cash dividends to be given to shareholders reached 26.4 trillion rupiah.
85% dari laba tadi, atau tepatnya adalah 26,4 triliun rupiah, gitu, ditetapkan sebagai dividen tunai yang akan dibagikan kepada pemegang saham. Dengan asumsi adanya pengalian treasury stock sebelum tanggal cum date, maka dividen yang akan dibagikan ini sekurang-kurangnya ekivalen dengan 174,23 rupiah per lembar saham.
The President Director of BRI, Sunarso, said that the dividend payment is equivalent to 174.23 rupiah per share. Meanwhile, the remaining 15% profit, or 4.59 trillion rupiah, will be used as retained earnings. With the dividend payout ratio, the government as the holder of 53.19% BRI shares will reap 14.04 trillion rupiah from BRI's dividend distribution. Management say that the large dividend distribution this year was due to the capital position, which was still very strong, with a capital adequacy ratio at the level of 25%. IDX Channel reports.
Bukalapak disbursed an investment of 777 billion rupiah to HelloFresh. Bukalapak sees the investment as a way to broaden company's reach to retail ecosystem.
Bukalapak disbursed an investment of 777.7 billion rupiah to HelloFresh. Bukalapak's corporate secretary Perdana Saputro said the company, together with Trans Retail Indonesia and Brand Investment, had formed a joint venture called HelloFresh Indonesia. The share ownership structure in HelloFresh is 77.53 million shares, or 35% owned by Bukalapak, 121.83 million shares, or 55% owned by Trans Retail, and 22.15 million shares, or 10% owned by Brand Investment. He said the paid-in capital used by the company to invest in HelloFresh Indonesia came from available internal cash. For Bukalapak, carrying out this transaction in partnership with Trans Retail will create a good and profitable partnership when combined with the company's technological strength. IDX Channel reports.
And viewers, the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic, business and capital market channel. And I'm Fajar Wayong. Have a nice evening and happy weekend.